I would rather have more centralization when it comes to creating a big financial market in Europe, because right now we have this like very member state specific financial markets, and when it comes to big companies, it's also really hard to kind of comply and to serve the market.
Hey folks, Flo here with Blockchain North, still at the Avalanche Summit in London. I'm here with Marina Markezic. I'm sure I'm gonna mess it up. Tell me how to pronounce it.
Markezic.
Markezic. I think I got it the second time. Pleasure to speak with you. You're with the European Crypto Initiative. As I was telling you, I'm a European in Canada, as many people know. So I'm very excited to be speaking about Europe today. So let's start with the elephant in the room, MiCA, living in Canada, North America. People revere MiCA. They constantly compare. Could you give us just a brief update, since it's been almost 2 years already? We checked June 2023, and what the impact has been on the European crypto industry.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So we started with MiCA in 2019 already, but the application date for the stablecoins started in June, like late June last year, and then for the crypto as a service providers in January this year. And the result of this is we have few companies that are registered, have a license to issue stablecoins. One is Circle, the other Societe Generale, etc. And then we have few licenses for crypto as a service providers as well. They're mostly coming from France, Germany, Malta. So some of the pretty known and I would say pro crypto companies, countries in a way. But the interesting thing is that there's like many more crypto as a service providers that are waiting for the license, and many things are connecting not only to MiCA but also to other regulations, such as the Digital Resilience Act that is called there's DORA and others. So there's like quite a lot of complications there.
I'm very glad to hear you mention France, since it is one of my two countries, and SocGen, called like that by many, but Societe Generale, a very TradFi, historic French bank. What is the level of adoption by, let's say, traditional banking in Europe?
So this is the funny thing. I think at the beginning we thought about stablecoin issuers being, in a way, blockchain companies like Circle. But I would say that the adoption will really happen from the banks. So the banks will be the ones mainly issuing stablecoins in Europe, just because in a way they have the ecosystem. It's easier for them to get licenses, and this kind of a whole compliance around stablecoins is so complicated and also like very intensive when it comes to, in a way, also resources, that we think that it's kind of a tailored to banks.
Yeah, that is an amazing difference with North America, to hear that it's traditional banks who are going to be issuing stablecoins. Needless to say, something like MiCA, like you said, since 2019, so 6 years in the works, maybe a few months fully implemented, like kind of a stage approach. What do you think the next stage is, and what are some of the challenges that you think you'll face?
So the next stage is like everyone is talking about the MiCA too, but actually it was coined by the European Central Bank. So the European Central Bank is the one that is supposed to look into the financial ecosystem in Europe, and they are worried right now that like the existing MiCA framework is not good enough for the challenges that might happen in the future. Specifically looking into other jurisdictions, maybe regulating stablecoins, and those issuers also kind of addressing the EU market. So they are thinking about like reopening, but at the same time they need to have like a broader consensus. And for this, right now, there's no consensus. Especially the European Commission, they're really focused on like the MiCA that is right now here, and in a way thinking about the reopening would be too much of a political thing, reopening a Pandora box. Let's work with what we have and let's see how the implementation will go.
Do you have any specific goals for the coming 2-3 years? I think if we look further, it's too hard to predict, but anything specific? What are your priorities basically? And maybe speak a little bit about the EU Crypto Initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. So the EU Crypto Initiative is an association based in Brussels. We started working on MiCA 5 years ago, and right now what we're doing is mostly following all the regulations, all the opinions that come up from the European Union in Brussels, and then responding to that. So for us, it's really more a kind of a reactive thing rather than proactive, because there's so much happening in the EU. And one of the things that are happening right now is like setting up the stage for the next 5 years. We have the European Commission's mandate that just started this year. So we're looking into, what are going to be the priorities for the next 5 years? And I think one of the really big ones is the Savings and Investments Union, within which we're also looking into a potential framework for tokenization of financial assets. And this is pretty exciting. But another thing that was not predicted and is hard to predict, almost impossible, is something that came from the European Data Protection Board, which is some guidance that help us understand better on how GDPR is used for blockchain.
Remind us what GDPR stands for?
Absolutely. It's basically a Data Protection Act, and it's really protecting European Union users from anyone exploiting their data,
Right.
especially linked to privacy. So in this case, there's some basic problems that we have, with blockchain on how permissionless blockchains are in a way designed, and the implementation of the GDPR through those guidance. And the main problem is really that, I think that the GDPR is so strict in some terms that when it comes to public blockchains, in one part of the guidance, they even say that blockchain should be deleted if not possible to comply with GDPR,
Chains,
which is.
you mean?
Sorry?
Chains would be deleted.
Absolutely, and
Wow.
that is, that exactly, that's the wow thing, and that was not something we planned to do this year. There's something that was not planned of happening, but we're putting a lot of resources here. We did a course, we did a lot of sharing with the community, so they are aware of what's happening, and hopefully we will discuss with the authorities for making and kind of trying to create something that would be reasonable. We have been supporting blockchain for a really long time. The European Commission is very clear. They want to have crypto companies, blockchain companies as a forefront of Europe. They also see it as a really, really important and big part of the financial future of Europe. And in this case, something as a GDPR coming in between that, we really hope that this will be solved.
I have a funny question for you. As I was listening to you speak just a moment ago, I was thinking about the European Union. I grew up in the 80s, and so I've seen the European construction. It's something that I'm actually personally quite proud of. I think Europe is, has built a peaceful, cooperation. It's obviously imperfect and work in progress, but nevertheless very unique by global standards. But the one thing that one could say is that it's all about centralization of power, and Brussels is often criticized by especially far-right parties in, let's say, France or Germany, for example. And blockchain is all about decentralization. So do those two ever come to tension, basically, the centralized authority of Europe versus the idea that we should decentralize, let's say, networks and infrastructure?
That's a brilliant question, and I think it's a really, really important one. So there were a few member states that were thinking about decentralization and thinking about maybe even leaving the European Union. So now we have a new situation with the just geopolitical threat that happens very closely to the EU, and I think that after those things happen, there are more, unanimity in the EU. So we think about being together, sticking together is better than being divided, and that is a huge shift from what happened, let's say, only a few months ago. When it comes to financial markets, I would say that I would rather have more centralization when it comes to maybe, just creating a big financial market in Europe, because right now we have this a very member state specific financial markets, and when it comes to big companies, it's also really hard to kind of comply and to serve the market. So that's
a bit the same in Canada, by the way, as a federation.
Okay, interesting. So in a way, it's a good thing that the MiCA is a regulation which is identically applicable in all the member states, and it's very easy for everyone to just join the whole European market. They do ask for a license, for example, in France, and then they can get passported and serve the whole European Union, which is not the case with the financial instruments with the MiFID. So I think that is a good thing for Europe.
Yeah. Wow, I'm glad that was such a great answer. I'm glad you liked the question. Final question. You have a unique vantage point. You're a policy expert. You can sort of see, and of course, what you're working on right now, what the next stages are, as we discussed. What is your surest prediction for crypto in the next 2 years?
You mean crypto in general?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What is the thing you have the most conviction about, that you are sure of?
I think that the main crypto assets, the ones that we usually talk about,
like
they're
the one
going
right
to
here,
absolutely, they're going to stay really strong, and they're going to be an important, in a way, investment asset. But at the same time, I think that the blockchains, the layer ones, will remain as they are, untouched from regulations, and they can serve other companies and in a way application builders, so they can build on top of it. So that's something that we need to really work towards. And the other one, which I really hope will happen, is this integration with a traditional finance as well. When it comes to this, I think that there's a lot of things moving on right now as well. As I mentioned, regulation could help this, but at the same time, I'm really excited to see really good use cases, and I think that the traditional financial market is looking into crypto, and they really want to add into this.
Very exciting. Well, from one cousin European in Canada, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.